Elspeth Vale stopped his wagon in the center of Calder Pass yard, where 3 ranch hands and Mrs. Bell could hear every word. "There she is, the plain one," he said. "Take her, Calder, and my debt is settled before sundown." Elspeth Vale gripped her carpetbag as her father slapped a ribbon-tied claim paper onto a flour barrel. She was 26, old enough to know that shame could be louder than a gunshot and quieter than a prayer. If Rafe Calder accepted the paper, she would lose her wages, her name, and the right to leave before the day was over. Beside her sat her younger sister Belle, pretty as a painted plate and pale as milk. Belle stared at the wagon floor. Then Rafe saw the blue ribbon, and his face changed. Rafe Calder owned the pass station, the horse corrals, and the low row of boxes shining in the noon sun. Rafe did not touch the paper. He was tall, 33, with sun-dark hands and a face cut by weather instead of softness. Men in town said he kept bees because horses trusted him too much and people not enough. He looked first at Silas, then at Elspeth. That look was the first kind thing she had received all day. It did not soften with pity, it sharpened with anger. "What is this?" Rafe asked. "Payment," Silas said. "I owe Judmar for freight and winter flour. Judd says you owe him for smoker oil and mule use. Take the girl and put the debt right. She can scrub, mend, count jars, whatever plain women do when nobody asks for them." One of Rafe's ranch hands stopped beside the pump. Mrs. Bell, the boarding house widow who cooked for the station, came out with a towel in her hands. Nobody moved to help Elspeth down. Bell stared at the wagon floor. Elspeth climbed down by herself. Her boots hit the dust. Her knees shook, but she kept her chin level because Silas had always hated that. He liked tears. Tears made his orders look merciful. Rafe picked up the folded paper at last. He saw the blue ribbon, then the names written across the front. His jaw worked once. "You brought your daughter to me as a debt note. I brought the one no man will miss." The yard went still. Rafe laid the paper back on the barrel as if it had dirt on it. "I buy oats, rope, and coffee. I do not buy women." Silas flushed. "Do not get proud with me, Calder. Judmar says if you want oil, flour, and teams through this pass, you will take the bargain. Then Judmar can climb the pass and say it with his own mouth." Rafe turned to Elspeth. His voice changed. It did not become sweet, it became careful. "Miss Vale, I have a spare bunkhouse with a bolt you control. Mrs. Bell sleeps in the next room when women board here. I can pay day wages if you choose work. If you want the Valley Road instead, I will put fare in your hand by supper. No man here will call you payment." Elspeth had trained herself not to believe quick rescue. Rescue often had hooks hidden in it, but Rafe Calder had just insulted 2 men with money because one tired woman stood in his yard. Silas barked a laugh. "She will take work she has nowhere else." Rafe did not look away from Elspeth. "That is for her to say." The words struck her harder than the insult had, not because they fixed anything. They did not. Her father still had the wagon, Bell still had silence. Judmar still controlled half the flour that came through the pass. But for one breath, Elspeth was not the plain one, the useful one, the extra daughter the debt Silas could trade. She was the person being asked. "I will work until the evening coach," she said. Her voice came out rough. "If you will write the wages down where I can see them." A corner of Rafe's mouth moved, almost a smile and almost grief. "I will write them in your own name." Silas spat into the dust. Names do not change faces. Rafe stepped between him and Elspeth so smoothly that the movement looked casual until every man in the yard noticed it. "No," Rafe said, "but names change who gets to answer." Silas climbed back into the wagon. Belle gathered her skirt, still looking down. As the wagon turned, Elspeth saw the blue ribbon on the debt paper flutter in the wind. It matched the ribbon Belle wore at her throat. Rafe saw Elspeth notice it. He did not ask, that was another kindness. Subscribe for more frontier romances, where a woman's choice matters more than any man's claim. He only said, "The bee yard is this way. If you hate bees, say so now." Elspeth almost laughed. It came out as a breath. "Bees make more sense than people." That is the first sensible thing said in this yard today. He led her past the corrals to the bee boxes set along a slope of yellow grass. The hives faced morning sun. Each box had a stone on top and a shallow pan of water nearby. One stand sagged where a mule had bumped it. A worried buzz rose from the cracked frame. Rafe reached for his gloves, but Elspeth set down her carpetbag and stepped closer. "May I?" He studied her. "You know hives. My mother kept 6 before she died. My father kept the honey money after." She said it plainly because old wounds could either bleed or become facts. Rafe handed her the gloves. Elspeth did not put them on. She moved slowly, palms low, voice softer than wind. She lifted the tilted corner, slid a flat stone under the weak leg, and eased the frame back until the angry hum sank into work again. A bee crawled over her wrist. She waited, it flew away. When she looked up, Rafe was watching her as if she had done something more than steady a box. "Most folks swat first," he said. "Most folks think fear is an order. And you? I think fear is a warning. It should be heard, not obeyed." The words sat between them. Rafe's eyes dropped to her hands, rough from soap and work, steady even now. Something in his face shifted, and Elspeth felt the danger of it. Not a bad danger, a warm one. He looked toward the pass road before he spoke again. "My mother was traded for a cattle debt," Rafe said. "They called it rescue because no money changed hands. She called it a locked door. She died with his name and never called his house home, so I know what that paper is." He returned to the hive tool before the confession could become a request for sympathy. The words did not ask anything from her. They simply set a piece of himself where she could see it. That made the warmth more dangerous still. Admiration was harder to stand than insult. Insult had a shape she knew. Mrs. Bell came to the bee yard carrying a ledger and a tin cup of water. She was a square woman with silver at her temples and suspicion in the set of her mouth. "Rafe," she said, "a woman brought here in a debt wagon brings trouble behind her." "Trouble was driving the wagon," he said. Mrs. Bell glanced toward the road. "Judd's black wagon is due by supper. If that paper came from him, this trouble has not finished climbing." Mrs. Bell looked at Elspeth. "Can you read figures?" "Yes, ma'am." "Can you cook?" "Enough not to poison a man, not enough to brag." Mrs. Bell's mouth twitched despite herself. "Can you keep your head when men shout?" Elspeth glanced toward the road where her father had vanished. "I have had practice." The widow opened the ledger on the nearest hive lid. "Day wage, name, mark it yourself." Elspeth took the pencil. Her hand nearly failed her then, not because she could not write, but because nobody had ever made her name feel like a door. "Elspeth Vale." She wrote it slowly. Rafe saw. He turned away before she could be embarrassed by being understood. By late afternoon, she had washed jars, checked hive lids, and sorted salve tins in the honey shed. Rafe worked nearby without crowding her. He explained the station in plain sentences. Calder Pass served ranchers, miners, and stage teams crossing before early snow. Honey sold well in town, and beeswax kept lamps and harness thread useful through winter. He did not speak of marriage. He did not speak of gratitude. He did not ask why her father had chosen her. That silence made her want to answer him more than questions would have. Near supper, a black wagon rolled in under a cloud of dust. Judmar stepped down with a red face, a green vest, and 2 mule drivers behind him. He owned the supply stable in Pine Hollow and acted as if every man breathing mountain air owed him for it. He took one look at Elspeth carrying clean jars and smiled. "So Sela's delivered after all. Good. Sign her claim paper, Calder, and I will send your smoker oil up tomorrow." Rafe closed the honey shed door. "There is no claim paper." Judd's smile thinned. "You want flour?" "Yes." "You want oil for those hives?" "Yes." "You want my teams hauling through your pass when the first frost comes?" Rafe stepped down from the shed porch. "Not at the price of calling a woman freight." Judd looked at Elspeth. "Girl, do not mistake mountain manners for a proposal. He will feed you 2 days and send you crawling. Sign with Silas's note, and at least you will have a roof." Elspeth felt the yard watching her. The old habit rose up, telling her to make herself smaller so the shouting ended sooner. Rafe did not rescue her from answering. He stood near enough that she knew she was not alone, and far enough that the answer remained hers. "I will not sign a paper I did not bargain," she said. Judd's eyes sharpened. "Then no flour, no oil, no mule teams. At sundown tomorrow, every team bearing my mark leaves this pass. Let the first frost find you empty." Mrs. Bell crossed her arms. The ranch hands muttered. Rafe's winter had just been given a clock in front of all of them. Rafe only nodded once. "Then we know what your word is worth." After Judd's wagon left, the yard did not return to normal. Men moved quieter. Mrs. Bell counted one flour sack in the bin and less than half a smoker barrel in the shed. Without oil, Rafe could not calm hives during harvest. Without flour, the pass station would feed fewer crews. Without mule teams, honey and wax might not reach Pine Hollow before weather turned. Elspeth stood beside the shed, hearing the cost of her name. At sunset, Rafe found her by the empty smoker barrel. "The evening coach is due in an hour," he said. He held out coins wrapped in a clean cloth. "Fare to Bitterroot Crossing. From there you can find work not tied to Sela's or Judd." She stared at the coins. "You need oil. You need a road. You do not even know me. I know you steady hives without crushing what frightens you. I know you asked for wages instead of pity. I know you were handed to me like a debt, and you still wrote your name like it belonged to you. That is more than enough to know how I ought to act." The warmth in her chest was worse now. It asked for things. It wanted to lean toward him. It wanted to believe the way he looked at her was not another bargain wearing a clean shirt. Rafe seemed to see the fight in her face, because he took one step back. "Wanting you to stay would be easy," he said quietly. "Making that want into another claim would be wicked, so I am putting the road in your hand first." No man had ever made restraint sound like desire before. Elspeth closed her fingers around the cloth. For a moment she let herself imagine taking the coach. A town where nobody knew Sela's, a room she paid for herself, a life that did not begin with being delivered. Then she looked at the empty smoker barrel and the hives dimming in the last light. "Where does Judd store oil?" Rafe frowned. "At Pine Hollow." "Does Mrs. Bell have any?" "For lamps, not enough." "The coach changes teams at Pine Hollow, does it not?" "Yes." "Then I can ride down, buy 2 cans with this, and return on the freight buckboard before dawn." His face hardened. That fare was not a test. "I know, that is why I can choose what to do with it." Rafe looked away toward the darkening pass. When he looked back, the wanting was still there, but so was fear. "If I let you do that, I am letting you risk yourself for my station." "No," Elspeth said. "You are letting me spend my own money on work I chose. There is a difference." He breathed out slowly. "Then I ride behind the coach as far as Pine Hollow, not to stop you, to make sure Judd knows you are not alone." She should have refused. Pride told her to refuse, but pride had never warmed a cold road. "All right," she said. Mrs. Bell found them before the coach lamps showed in the lower road. She carried a folded blanket and a heel of bread wrapped in paper. "If she rides to Pine Hollow, she does not ride hungry," the widow said. Then, to Elspeth, "I was wrong to look at you and see only the trouble men tied to your skirt. Trouble is not the same as fault." Elspeth took the bread carefully. "Thank you." Mrs. Bell sniffed. "Do not thank me yet. If you come back with oil, I will put you to work before breakfast. If you do not come back, I will tell any woman asking that Calder Pass paid what it owed." That was not tenderness, exactly. It was better than tenderness in that moment. It was a witness. A woman with a ledger and a hard mouth had seen the bargain clearly and put herself beside it. Rafe looked relieved by Mrs. Bell's rough mercy. Elspeth noticed that too. A man who was glad when another person gave her a safer world was different from a man who wanted to be her whole world. The first smile he gave her was small and unguarded. It made him look younger than the mountains around him. At Pine Hollow, Judmar would not sell to her. He stood in the store doorway with lamplight behind him and said all smoker oil was promised. Elspeth laid the coins on the counter. "Promised to whom?" "Men with accounts." My account is coin. Judd pushed the coins back. Your account is Elspeth Vale. Behind him, a young mule driver shifted. His name was Tom Harker. Elspeth remembered him from the yard because he had looked at the blue ribbon on the note and then away. Judd turned his head just enough for Tom to hear. Remember who signs your pay, boy. Tom's shoulders drew in. Rafe stood outside by his horse, visible through the open door, not interfering, not leaving. Elspeth picked up her coins. She walked to the lamp shelf and took 2 small cans of lamp oil instead. Mrs. Bell said this burns dirty but burns. Judd grabbed her wrist. Rafe was inside before the bell above the door finished ringing. He did not draw a weapon. He did not need to. He looked at Judd's hand until Judd released her. She is buying oil, Rafe said. She is tied to Vale's debt. Then show the lawful paper. Judd smiled. Ask her sister who tied it. Tom Harker's mouth opened, then shut. Elspeth saw it. So did Rafe. They rode back with lamp oil that smoked black and stung the eyes. It was not enough for a harvest. It was enough for one emergency. The emergency came before noon the next day. Belle Vale arrived first, alone on a lathered horse. Her blue throat ribbon was gone. Dust streaked her cheeks, and fear had ruined her pretty composure. Father is coming, she said. Judd, too. They are bringing a second paper, and they mean to claim the Queen boxes before noon. They said if Rafe will not sign, they will make the pass useless to him. Elspeth stood in the honey shed doorway with a pan of cooling wax in her hands. Why did your ribbon tie the note? Belle flinched. Mrs. Bell came out behind Elspeth. Rafe stopped by the corral gate. Belle twisted her bare fingers. I did not know what father meant to do. He said he needed something pretty on the paper so Judd would think the family agreed. He said it was only to scare you into going. Into going where? Belle's eyes filled. Away from home, away from the dowry chest, away from the men asking for me. The words hurt, but not because they were new. They hurt because Belle had finally given them shape. Elspeth set the wax pan down. You watched him hand me down from the wagon. Belle whispered, I was afraid. So was I. The yard held that sentence. Before Belle could answer, smoke lifted beyond the bee slope. Rafe turned first, honey shed. The world became motion. One of the side sheds had caught near the dry grass, flames licking up the wall where empty frames were stacked. The bees roared in their boxes. Men ran for water. Mrs. Bell dragged blankets from the wash line. Rafe shouted for shovels and a fire break. Elspeth saw the Queen boxes inside the shed. If they burned, Rafe's station would lose more than honey. It would lose wax, trade, and the winter work that kept men fed. Judd would not need a debt note after that. Hunger would do the claiming for him. Rafe grabbed her arm as she started forward. No. The Queen boxes are by the east wall. I said no. She looked at his hand on her sleeve. He released her instantly, as if burned. That was why she trusted him enough to speak sharply. Then help me instead of stopping me. He stared at her one heartbeat, then shoved a wet blanket into her hands. Low and fast, I go first, you take what I pass. If smoke turns black, you run whether I do or not. No. Elspeth. We both run, or neither of us wastes breath arguing. The fear in his face changed into something fierce and almost tender. Stubborn woman. Still not freight. They went in low. Smoke clawed at her throat, heat pressed against her cheek. Rafe kicked aside a burning crate and lifted the first Queen box. Elspeth wrapped it, carried it out, and set it in the grass where Mrs. Bell covered it, back again. The second box was hotter. A frame fell, scattering bees over her skirt. She did not swat. She moved slow where panic wanted speed. Men saw, Bell saw. Tom Harker and the other mule driver rode in while the last box came out. Behind them came Judd, Marr, and Elspeth Vale in a buckboard, as if they had expected smoke. Judd jumped down and shouted, Those hives are collateral now. Calder cannot pay freight and the woman is Vale's surety. Hitch the boxes. Rafe stood blackened with soot, one sleeve scorched between Judd and the saved queens. Touch them, he said, and you lose every team that crosses my pass. Judd laughed. Your pass, without my mules it is a goat trail. Silas pointed at Elspeth. Sign the paper, girl. You have caused enough loss. Sign, and I will let Calder keep his bees. He held out a fresh sheet. Det wife, the words were written at the top. The yard blurred for half a second. Old training whispered that one signature could make shouting stop. One obedience could save everyone trouble. One daughter could be spent so prettier daughters survived clean. Elspeth wiped soot from her mouth. No. Silas's face twisted. No man else will want you. Rafe moved, but Elspeth lifted her hand, not to stop him from protecting her, to claim the next breath herself. That may be, she said, but wanting is not the same as owning. She turned to Belle. Her sister stood near the pump, crying openly now. Look at the ribbon on Father's first note, Elspeth said. Tell them whose it was. Silas snapped Belle. Belle shook her head. Tell them, Elspeth said, softer. Not for me only, for yourself. If he can trade one daughter with your ribbon, he can trade another with your silence. Belle covered her mouth. Tom Harker stepped down from the mule team. I saw Mr. Vale sign that note in Judd's back room. The girl was not there. Neither was any clerk. Judd said Calder would break if flour and oil stopped. Judd's face emptied of color. Shut your mouth, boy. Your word belongs to the man who pays you. Then he lunged. Rafe caught Judd by the vest and drove him back against the wagon wheel. No blow, just enough force to make every driver see who was desperate. Mrs. Bell picked up the ribbon-tied note from the barrel where Rafe had kept it. She held it beside Belle's torn throat ribbon. Same blue, same cut edge. Belle lowered her hand. It was mine, she said. Father took it. He said Elspeth was born for burdens and I was born for better. I let him say it. I let him bring her here. The silence after that was not empty. It was full of people deciding where to stand. No one looked at Elspeth now. They looked at Silas. The first driver reached for Judd's harness buckle. One mule driver unhitched his lead team from Judd's wagon. Then the other did the same. Tom Harker took off Judd's green stable badge and dropped it in the dirt. I will haul for Calder direct, not for a man who blocks flour, buys false papers, and calls women freight. Judd's face went purple. You quit, you do not work the valley again. Bring those teams back, Judd ordered. The nearest driver kept walking, as though Judd had become a stranger. Rafe let go of his vest. They will work my pass, paid fare, written fare, starting today. The station clerk, old Mr. Knoll, had come running when the smoke rose. Until then he had hovered at the edge of the yard with his book closed, the way weak officials did when power was still choosing sides. Elspeth looked at him. Can a debt note signed without the named person's consent claim her wages? Knoll swallowed, no. Can a supply agent seize hives because a woman refuses to become his surety? No. Then write it. Knoll hesitated, looking at Judd. Mrs. Bell stepped beside Elspeth. Write it, Amos, or no boarding house credit for your winter beans. That moved him faster than justice. He opened the book. Silas grabbed the ribbon note, but Bell snatched it first. Her hands shook as she carried it to Elspeth. I cannot undo it, Bell said. No, Elspeth said, you cannot. Bell flinched, but she did not run from the cost. My dowry chest, Bell said, voice breaking. The blue one, sell it. Pay her fare, her first month's wages, and whatever Mrs. Bell says I owe for standing quiet. Silas raised his hand. Rafe stepped in front of Bell this time, and 3 ranch hands stepped with him. Silas's hand dropped. That was his first visible loss. Not the paper, not the money, the obedience. Knoll wrote until the scratching pencil sounded louder than the bees. Across the false note he wrote, void, no consent. Then he read the words loudly enough for the men at the corrals to hear. When Knoll read, no consent, aloud, Mrs. Bell tore the note through Bell's ribbon and dropped it at Silas's boots. Knoll struck Judd's haul contract from the station book while the drivers moved the lead team to Calder's corral. Judd's own wagon stood without a working crew while everyone watched. Silas ordered Belle back to the wagon. Not one ranch hand moved aside for him. Belle lost the soft lie that she had done nothing. She stood in the yard while every person there knew what her silence had cost. Elspeth lost something too. She lost the last small hope that her father might one day look at her and see a daughter before a burden. The loss hurt. Freedom often did. It pulled up roots that had grown around stones. Near dusk, after the shed stopped smoking and the queen boxes settled into a low-living hum, Rafe found Elspeth beside the ledger table. His sleeve was bandaged. Soot still darkened his jaw. He held the cloth of coins he had given her the night before. "Belle's chest covered the fare," he said. "Mrs. Belle added your wages to the ledger. Noel wrote apiary keeper because Mrs. Belle said honey girl sounded foolish and I value my life too much to argue." Elspeth laughed. It surprised them both. Rafe held out the coins. "Road first, always." She took them. This time her hand did not tremble. "And if I do not take the road?" His eyes held hers. "Then I would like to court you properly, not because you saved my hives, though you did, not because you stood up to your father, though I will remember that until I am old. Because when you look at fear, you listen and then choose. I have wanted a woman beside me who could do that. I just did not know her name until yesterday." There it was, the discovery the insult had tried to make impossible. Elspeth looked past him at the pass road. It was open, hard, uncertain, and open. Then she looked at the bee boxes, the scorched shed, the ledger on Mrs. Belle's table, and the man who had put the road in her hand before asking for her heart. "You may court me," she said, "slowly, with witnesses when needed and honey when available." His smile came careful and bright. "That is a stern bargain. I am told plain women must be practical." Rafe's smile faded. He stepped closer, still leaving space. "Elspeth Vale, there is nothing plain about a woman who walks through smoke carrying a kingdom in a wooden box." She did not know what to do with beauty when it was spoken that way, without hunger or purchase in it. Belle stood near Mrs. Belle, red-eyed and smaller than she had looked that morning. Elspeth did not forgive her there. Forgiveness was too large to hand out like supper, but she nodded once because Belle had chosen truth when lying would have kept her pretty life untouched. Silas Vale left Calder Pass on foot after no driver would hitch for him. Judmar rode beside him on a borrowed mule, his green vest dusty, his pass contract crossed out in Noel's book. Belle did not leave with them. Mrs. Belle put her to washing smoke from jars until her soft hands reddened. No one called that justice enough. It was only the first honest work Belle had done for the damage. When she passed Elspeth near the pump, she stopped with her eyes lowered. "I liked being the easy daughter," Belle said. "I let you be the strong one because it cost me nothing." Elspeth rinsed soot from a cloth. "It cost me." Belle nodded. "I know that now. I will pay what Mrs. Belle writes, and if you never want me at your table, I will still say what I did." That was the first apology Elspeth believed, because it did not ask to be fed. After Silas disappeared around the bend and Belle returned to the smoke-blackened jars, Elspeth took the new apiary key from the ledger table. She locked the gate herself, then opened it again. Rafe waited outside until she nodded, and only then did he step through and offer his hand. With the fair money still in her pocket and every witness watching, Elspeth took it, not because she had nowhere to go, but because the gate, the road, and the choice were hers. Subscribe for more clean, romantic Wild West stories where rejected brides, lonely ranchers, and brave frontier women find home by choice.